2 days. When I first started in sales, I used to worry quite a bit about 2 days. Actually, I worried about them for too many years. The first day was yesterday. I'd rehash the mistakes I made yesterday and beat myself up for not making one more sale or one more cold call or whatever it was I could find to worry about. The other day is tomorrow. If it was close to the end of the month, I'd worry about making my sales quota, or I'd worry about tomorrow's big presentation, or if someone would cancel an important sales call, or if the competition would release a better product. You know how it goes. I could spend a lot of time worrying about tomorrow. Finally, I realized that yesterday's gone and tomorrow's yet to be born. I only have one day, so why not live it and work like it is the only day that matters? Because that is the only day that matters. Hi everyone, this is Bob Poole. Welcome to the Water Cooler Hangout. For over 40 years, I've been helping people like you grow and prosper. Today's podcast is all about selling. Does the idea of selling trigger your cognitive dissonance? Maybe it even brings back a bad memory. The truth is, we are all selling every time we have a conversation and exchange our point of view for someone else's attention, time, or energy. It might be selling our boss on an idea, our spouse or partner on spending money on a new car or something else. Or maybe you do sell for a living. Please join me today as I share some real-life tips and thoughts about selling that might help you as you communicate with others. Years ago, a friend did a survey out in Arizona. He went to one of the big malls in the Scottsdale area. He was in the sales training business, and he decided he was going to do a survey and see what people said, primarily to prove something he already knew. He had a clipboard, and he would stop people in the mall and say, "Excuse me, could I ask you a question?" And those that said okay, he'd say, "If I say the word salesperson, what comes to mind?" Well, what do you think, huh? He got all kinds of answers back, most of which were not particularly nice. He said pushy was the first word that came out. The perception of salespeople at that time, and maybe even today, is that they're manipulative, smooth-talking, and yes, pushy. After my friend completed his survey, he spent the rest of his life helping people sell with integrity. And in turn, those people he worked with went on to change the perception of salespeople and selling with thousands of customers and clients. However, even today, too many salespeople have a negative perception of themselves when it comes to selling. When I first started selling, it was for 3M Company, and my title was sales representative. That's what my business card said. And over the years, I've seen all kinds of names given to sales representatives. You know, things like sales executive, sales consultant. Those are okay, I guess. But the one kind that bothers me are things like marketing representative, business development manager, that's a good one, or relationship manager. Sounds nice. Once in a while you'd see a territory manager, account manager, major account manager, all kinds of different titles that people would rather have than being a sales representative. And the problem is that a lot of salespeople's view of selling is negative. They actually feel ashamed or don't want to have the word sales be in their title of their actual sales job. But that's pretty self-defeating when you come to think about it, right? You know, if you go through life with a negative perception of what it is you do, you're probably not going to be very successful. Perhaps you suffer from some guilt over all the negative stereotypes that exist out there, because they do exist. Some salespeople have a fear of letting themselves being seen is what they think is a lesser person if they're in sales. And others just use those titles to disguise what they really do, which is pretty strange. It's really a faulty belief system that people have about selling being a negative job and career. The fact is, this has been going on for way too many years. That friend of mine who did that survey in Scottsdale in the mall, he did it back in the early 80s. That's how long this has been going on. And the perception continues today. It's bolstered by negative characters that Hollywood likes to create in their movies and TV shows. The truth is, selling is providing value to someone. It's a win-win situation. It isn't something you do to someone. It's something you do for someone and with someone. If you ever feel guilty about selling, I'd like you to do something. Stop. Stop right now. People often confuse sales with people who are forcing unwanted products, services, and opportunities on them. I get it. Maybe they have run into a manipulative or pushy salesperson with a lack of integrity at one time or another, and they fear that they'll be painted with that same brush. But don't allow yourself to feel guilty about what you do. Be proud of what you do. And remember, people love to buy. Just ask Amazon. Let's talk about common sense. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Common sense is genius dressed in its working clothes." If you still have a bookstore in your town and it's open, go by and check out the business book section, or you can search online. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of titles on how to be a great leader, a great business person, a great salesperson, a great entrepreneur. It goes on and on. But when you dig it down into all of them, they all say pretty much the same thing, just in different ways. They'll tell you to be authentic, listen, solve problems, be generous, be honest, build relationships, lead well, demonstrate gratitude. We talked about gratitude a few weeks ago. It's important. Demonstrate humility and have compassion. You know, I'm an old fart. Back when I was growing up, those character skills were called common sense and decency and compassion. It was how people lived their lives. It was called having good character. And if you had good character and worked hard, you succeeded. I think it still works like that today. I think it can. Clients, customers really want solutions. They want practical and workable solutions and ideas that come from character and common sense. If you can come up with ideas and alternatives the clients can use to solve the problems they have right now, you don't really need a top 10 list of business secrets. Salespeople and people in general sometimes fall into a trap. I call it the assume trap. They think that once they've made a sale to someone, they assume the next sale will be a given. For example, you bought a car, and the next time you're going to buy a car, you might go back to that same salesperson if you had a really good experience. And it's even more probable that you'll go back to that salesperson if you had a good experience and they stayed in touch with you. You don't buy a car every year. It might be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Well, I have friends that do buy them every year, but they're crazy car people. However, if the salesperson has taken the time to stay in touch, dropped you, once in a while, a note or an email, expressed their gratitude, there's a good chance that you may be going back. But a lot of salespeople don't think about the sale once the contract's signed and the invoice is paid. And the fact of the matter is that studies show that customers who buy are indeed likely to buy again, and from the same person. But only if they see value in doing so. Price, by the way, is hardly ever a bargaining chip these days. 10 minutes on the internet can show you who has the lowest price, right? What the internet can't show quite as quickly is who has the best customer service, the best follow-up, or the best relationship building skills. When you make a sale, you're making a connection with someone. The sale opens the door. Walking through that door into the customer's business, life, and future are what makes more sales. Think of that first sale like as a first date. You've met, talked, exchanged time, ideas, resources. Do you want to continue the relationship and see it as a connection? I know I do. If you live long enough or you do sales long enough, you're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes. You'll drop the ball. You're going to burn some bridges, anger some clients and customers, or maybe just simply implode one day. I have my stories about myself. We all screw up, and often we do it in brilliant and highly visible ways. When that happens, most people do one of two things. They blame circumstances outside themselves and walk away, or they take responsibility for their actions and clean up their mess and move on. When you move on after blaming someone or something for your failures, then someone else is left to clean up the mess and deal with the situation. And you're going to be forever seen as the one who caused it. However, if you admit you're all or part of the mess, clean it up and fix what you can and then move on, you're in much better shape. When you've done all you can at least salvage your self-respect, and you will probably likely garner the respect of others as well. Accepting responsibility doesn't mean hanging your head in shame, although you may feel like doing that. It just means that owning your actions and behaviors, making amends, apologizing, resolving to change if that's needed, and taking steps to ensure it doesn't happen again. It's not fun, it's not easy, and it takes a real man and woman to do it. But when the time comes for you to own it, remember, it's not the end of the world. Everyone fails. Communicate and cooperate to resolve the situation, identify the takeaway lesson you learned from it, and lastly, keep on going. It's water under the bridge. Move ahead with your head held high. Most people want to be thought of as being first class. You just can't look first class, though. You have to be first class. In other words, don't look like the real deal. Be the real deal. Many of us pride ourselves on being able to spot a phony, but we fail to realize sometimes that our prospects can read us just as well as we read them. You may look like the real deal, but you have to be the real deal. Also, you just can't talk a good game. You have to back it up. Walk your talk. Don't make empty promises. You have to be authentic. And remember, don't promise someone first class if you can't deliver. Because when you promise first class and deliver third class, you ruin your credibility. Always under-promise and over-deliver. I'm sure you've heard that before. So if you want to be first class, here's what you do. Always do what you say you're going to do. No excuses. Also, give whatever you do your personal best, whether it's a small client or a large corporation. And don't make a promise you can't keep, and don't break a promise once you make it. There's a good quote from Sir Winston Churchill that I like. He says, "Success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm." I think that's great. One of the questions that sales managers like to use, even other types of employers, to determine if you're a good fit for their company is they'll ask you to describe a time you failed. What was the failure and what did you do? They're not really all that concerned with how you screwed up, but how you recovered. And all good leaders know that we all fail throughout our lives. Failures are part of success. If you're not failing, you're not trying, right? So they want people who can own and accept responsibility for their actions. They don't want to hear or hire someone who can only blame others for their lack of success or their failures. They want to hear how you overcame, scrambled, worked, and managed to overcome the failure. They want to know that you can own your own failures and take responsibility when working with their sales team. And lastly today, I'll leave you with this. Success is 90% preparation and 10% persuasion in sales. These days, customers will often show up knowing the features, advantages, and benefits of your products and services, sometimes better than you. They've done their homework on the internet, and they've read all the good and bad things people say about your company, and quite possibly even about you. So they'll come with questions for you that you used to ask them. I'll say that again. They'll come up with questions for you that you used to ask them. Some of you might fear the prospect of your customers having that kind of knowledge and power, but don't. You should be thrilled because if they're talking with you, it's because they've made a decision to take the first step towards a purchase. Be happy that you won't have to spend as much time educating them about basics, and instead you can concentrate on what they really want and need. Because the fact is, although selling has changed with the advent of things like the internet and artificial intelligence and pixels and inbound marketing, nobody buys anything unless they perceive they have a need, a want, or a problem to solve. And it's still your job to have your prospect tell you about them. Being prepared to sell means being prepared to listen, ask questions, answer questions, to wait, to smile, to bite your tongue, and to explore other options and connect with your customer. People buy from people they like and trust. They trust people who know what they're talking about and who are confident. Being prepared means knowing what questions to ask to find out your prospects' needs, wants, and problems, as well as how well your product can meet them. To help me be the kind of salesperson I wanted to be, I wrote a list of 6 sales principles to follow. They work for me. Maybe they can help you too. So here goes. First, today I will listen with my heart and not just my ears. Secondly, treat everyone the way I would want them to treat me. The next one is to look for the good in everyone and run like crazy if you can't find it. Fourth, deliver more than what is expected of me. Number 5 is to look at failure as a learning experience. And number 6, which is the most important principle for me though, is to remember to focus on providing value for every client and customer who spends time with me. I always try and remember it isn't about me, it's about them. Focusing on value has led to many sales for me. Hopefully these principles might help you in your sales efforts also. Thank you for joining me today at the Water Cooler Hangout.